everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing really well. It's been a little while since I've spoken to you guys. I'm sure you can tell from the title of this video, we have just recently had a baby. Yeah, he's 3 weeks old today, and we've just been adjusting as a family and kind of finding our feet. And I have tried to film this video a couple of times, but it's just not happened because time just disappears. So I do currently have a little couple of hours, so I'm hoping I can get it done, but already it's been like a slow morning because little man didn't want to go down. He's finally settled in his Moses now, but I am like rocking him, if you can just see my arm moving, and you might hear little noises here and there, and I might have to keep stopping and starting if he needs feeding, etc. My toddler's at nursery, so I just want to get this filmed whilst I've got this time. So yeah, wish me luck. I know this video is going to be really long naturally, just from me telling the story, so I'm going to try and keep the kind of waffle down, but I do find that really hard, so apologies if it is a long one. But I don't want to miss out any details because this is really kind of a special video for us as a family, in terms of kind of just having the birth stories logged down. I would love, imagine if like you had your birth story, a video that you could watch your mum chatting through it. Like, I'd love that. So yeah, this is just a special video for us as a family, and I just want to make sure I kind of talk about everything as much as I can, so I don't forget any kind of small parts. If you have been around for a little while, you might know that I did vlog my previous birth with my first son 2.5 years ago now, and yeah, that vlog was very much kind of like a birth vlog. I picked up the camera and like filmed like contractions and everything else. I will link it below. This vlog is different. I am doing this as a combined birth story and birth vlog video because I just don't think what I vlogged flows enough to make sense on its own. So yeah, I did vlog parts, but I'm just going to chat to you through it as well. This is a very positive birth story. If you're scared of birth, then hopefully this will help. Had a home birth last time and it was really just went so well that I just knew I wanted to try and go for one again this time. We have moved areas, so there were some kind of different like things in the way of me potentially getting that experience this time. The main one being that in Nottingham they don't have a home birth team, and so it was very much they could facilitate a home birth if the baby came between certain hours during the day. It couldn't be overnight, and yeah, it just put a bit of pressure on the whole situation really. Yeah, so in my head I knew the baby had to kind of come at a certain time of day to get the home birth, otherwise it wouldn't happen. I'm gonna start just playing the first clip that I filmed on Monday the 10th of July at about 5 to 7 I think it was. Let's just play that and I'll talk to you after. Hello, it is currently Monday morning at about Alexa, what's the time?
The time is 6:55
a.m. 6:55 a.m. I don't know how long I've got to talk. Pretty sure I'm in labour. Ollie and Buzz are downstairs. Ollie's blowing up the pool. Buzz is due to go to nursery today at 8 anyway, but I think he can do early drop off from 7:15, so we're going to try that. So he's out of the house because I don't want him to like see me in pain or anything like that. I'll put on the screen the contraction situation. I've been using the Freya app. It's come on so much more intense quickly than last time. Like literally I didn't have a build up really. I've been awake since 3 just because I woke up for a wee, and I was like a bit annoyed that I'd woke up with like no feelings again, because I'm currently 5 days like overdue. Oh, is it happening again? I just feel like I need a massive poo every time. They're all in my back. I spoke to you then, and then in that time Ollie was getting our toddler Buzz ready for nursery. We were going to drop him in early. He was already due to go, but we were able to drop him in to the early drop off just so he could be out of the house and we could kind of focus on the situation, and he didn't have to like see me kind of contracting and whatever else. So yeah, Ollie was getting him ready for nursery, and he also started blowing up the birthing pool, and got the liner on and got the hose set up and was like starting to fill that up and things. All the while I was just kind of having my contractions. I went downstairs and I was just sat with Buzz, and I remember just looking at him thinking, you have no idea what's about to happen. Like, as much as we tried to prepare him for having a little baby around the house, like at 2.5, I don't know how much you can truly understand, or at least he didn't know that he was gonna be here, I don't know. And I remember just feeling a bit emotional about it, thinking like, this is the last time I'm gonna see you and you're gonna be my only like kid, and oh my gosh, I don't know, it was just all very emotional and everything. So yeah, he's sat having his little juice, we've got his telly on, got the birthing pool filling up, and yeah, whilst Ollie took Buzz to nursery, I was just having a quick tidy up in between contractions, taking the recycling out, tidying up toys, just making it like a nice environment. It wasn't really like messy, luckily, but I just wanted minimal stuff around, because for me, tidy space, tidy mind, and a tidy, happy mind is really beneficial when you're in labour. So yeah, I was doing those bits, and I think I chatted to you again. I'm gonna just say now, past Shannan, you are a pro. I don't know how you vlogged, because I cannot. I thought this time I'm gonna have my hair, I'm gonna be able, as soon as I start to feel twinges, I'm gonna do some nice French plaits, I'm gonna feel good in how I look. I've just put on literally like a dress. Buzz is at nursery now. We just rang the midwives. It's 7:30. The home birth team clocks on at 8. I'm finding it for contractions like leaning up against the windowsill. Hi Ollie. Oh, he's got the goods. Thank you. I don't really feel like I'm gonna film much because it's very strong. Okay, one's coming. I need my app, so I'm gonna stop filming. Just found Buzzy's Mickey. I just feel mad that was the last time I saw him. Probably before he's gonna be a big bro. No, that was a nice spit, sorry. This is all covered. I literally watched him wipe his nose on this morning as well. I'm just stood, the pool is filling up. I'm in the hallway by a window, the door's open as well, so I've got a nice breeze. Got a Mellow Magic playlist on. In the living room, Ollie's got the bitches out for the midwives. I'm about to have another one. So yeah, I don't know. There was just so much, like, so many hormones and emotions and just like apprehension and all of that kind of going through my head at this point. Sorry if I'm rocking, by the way. I'm like kicking the Moses basket to keep it rocking to make sure baby stays asleep. But yeah, by 8:30 I was in the birthing pool, and yeah, the app was saying I was in established labour, and it had been for about an hour at this point, I believe. So Ollie rang the midwife line at 7:30 to let them know that things were happening and that it was saying I was in established labour and that I'd previously had a very quick labour. These were all things that we'd been told to tell them when the time came. So yeah, I had previously had a very quick labour, so we kind of were geared up for that to happen again. And the fact I like pretty much went straight into established labour as soon as I started contracting, pretty much. They were very intense and they were coming like every 3 minutes, like I was having 3 in 10 minutes, and yeah, it was very much looking like this was going to happen quickly. So he let the midwives know, and they said obviously they clock on at 8, but they would get here as soon as they could. So I was in the pool. Ollie was just like faffing around the house. He took out a couple of Buzzy's bigger toys out of the living room so we had more space in here. So the midwives came, and this was like one of the first things that I feel like was a factor in the change of direction for my labour. So obviously you can never know how things would have happened differently if certain things didn't happen. However, the way that my contractions were coming really regularly, really intensely, and all of that, and then when this situation happened, things just kind of really died down. So we'd put a sign on the front door saying like, home birth in action. I don't actually know what it said, I didn't see it, Ollie wrote it, but basically saying like use the back door, like midwives use the back door, just so that he didn't have to like go and let them in, and like he could just be with me and whatever. So he'd put that sign on the front door and he'd left the back door open. And yeah, we were just both in here. I was having like contractions or whatever, holding Ollie's hand and stuff. And we just heard hello. And I was like, oh my God, Ollie the postman. Like, so he quickly jumped up, like, cause he didn't want the postman to walk in. And as he was like walking to the door, we heard the person say again, oh, don't worry, it's just your midwife, I'm coming in. And I was like, Ollie, that's a man. Like, that's the midwife and it's a man. And I was a bit like unsure whether to even say this part of the story, because I don't want anyone to think that I was being nasty in any way whatsoever. But I just truly didn't even know. Like, I'm sure if I'd thought about it, I obviously would have known it was the case, but I just never thought about it before. I've never come across a male midwife before, and it just threw me. Like, I know that obviously so many medical professionals are men, like doctors. There's so many male doctors, gynaes, whatever. Like, if I was having a hospital birth, I'm sure I would have come across lots of male doctors and whatever else. But I just was shocked that a male midwife had turned up. Like, I didn't even consider it to be a possibility whatsoever. And that really slowed down my contractions, I think, because I just felt a bit like, uncertain, you know, a bit self-conscious, a bit uncomfortable. And I really don't want this to come across badly, because obviously I know gender equality is like really important, and I'm all for people pursuing what they want to do. Like, I don't think gender should get in the way of that, but I just wasn't expecting it. And I will say, like, I did feel more uncomfortable with it being a man than I would have if it was a woman. So yeah, I know that some of you probably are going to judge me for that, but I know that some of you also will probably think I would have felt uncomfortable too, because I know, talking to my friends, like every friend I've spoken to has been like, oh my gosh, yeah, I would have really been thrown off by that. So he was lovely. I will say he was so lovely. He was about 60 odd, I'd say, and he'd been a male midwife since he like signed up the day that they legalized male midwives, basically, he was saying. So he was very, very experienced. He'd been doing it for years and years and years and years and years and years, but it just threw me. So there was that situation. He got here and he asked to listen to baby's heart rate. So I stood up, like I stayed in the pool, but I had to stand up for him to put the thing on my tummy, because their underwater one wasn't working or something, which again, last time they did have an underwater one, and I wasn't even aware she was doing it. She did it in a way that I would just be like contracting and she would just like do it, and it would not be a thing, it wouldn't be spoken about. Whereas this, every time it was like every 15 minutes, right, stand up, let's listen. And so I was like in and out the pool, as much as like my shins were in, you know, my lower legs were in the pool where I was standing up, but I felt like it was a lot more, not intervention, but just a bit more involvement than I'd had previously. I wasn't like able to just get on with it and be in my own zone, which I could have. Like, I feel like in retrospect, there's a lot of things I would have said and done differently to kind of try and make it the experience that I wanted and needed it to be. But whatever, that was the case. He was listening to the heart rate, and like he asked to feel my tummy whilst I was having contractions and things, so he could feel that it was going right. I don't know. So yeah, he was here, he was doing that. And then the second midwife arrived not long after, and she was really nice. And yeah, they just both basically sat down, looked through my birth preferences that I'd written up and printed out, and got to know the situation, got to know us. And then yeah, they pretty much just sat here, and I don't know, I feel like I would have preferred if they weren't in the room the whole time, because it did feel like they were just watching me a lot. And like, obviously some people that wouldn't have phased them or whatever, but I just think for me at the time, maybe I felt a lot of pressure coming from them watching me. If they were just like sat reading a book even, you know, like, and I would have felt more like I could have just been in the zone and there was no like expectation. It would have just like flowed a bit more naturally maybe. But in the end, Ollie was like, what should we put on the telly? Because I'd been just watching my shows, and had music on and whatever. And we were like, let's put something on, and then like I'll feel less like I'm being watched. So put on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Time was kind of ticking on, and they basically what I'd said before about how home birth midwives were only available, or not even home birth, community midwives were available from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They said, they'd mentioned early on when they first got there that like their shift was 8 till 4. And I was like, okay, so in my head I was thinking, right, ideally this baby would come before 4, so I don't have to have new midwives come in, because that might like, you know, change how things go. Like if I'm contracting, it might slow it down, whatever. I thought it'd just be a neater and tidier job if the baby could come whilst they were on shift, and it would just be easy. You're probably sitting there thinking, how do you think you can manage it? You obviously have no control over when the baby can come, etc. But just in my head, I was thinking ideally, like obviously I knew I'd had a really quick labour previously, a really quick birth, and I just in my head thought it was going to be a similar situation. So I was like, okay, ideally baby will come before 4. I think it probably will, because that's like plenty of time. It's like, you know, 8:30 or whatever at the moment. And yeah, that was that. So I had in my head, ideally baby comes before 4, which subconsciously is probably like putting a bit of pressure on myself to like, for things to hurry up, even though I obviously have no say in the matter really. Yeah, so then as the day went on, like we were making teas and I say we, Ollie was like making teas and coffees and stuff. It was keeping me topped up with my Lucozade Sport, and I was just breathing through the contractions. They had like pretty much stopped when the male midwife turned up. They did kind of stop for a while, because I think I just went into like a bit of like like panic, and yeah, they did start again, but they didn't come back as frequently as they had been. It was no longer saying I was in established labour. It was kind of more every 4 or 5 minutes, and yeah, they were still intense but not as intense. So yeah, that kind of carried on for a few hours. They took it in turns to have their lunch, and yeah, it got to about 2, and they sat down and they were like, look, here's the situation. We finish at 4 and there is no one that can come and take over from us. There's basically no other community midwives on that like later shift that day. So if the baby didn't come by 4, then I wouldn't be able to have the home birth. And so yeah, at this point I just felt a bit like in shock and deflated, and I don't know, like I said, this was about 2, so there wasn't much time left, and the contractions hadn't picked up again like in the same way that they had originally. So yeah, they offered me to have an examination, which I had never had with my previous birth. I had opted not to have them, unless obviously like if I felt like at any point I wanted to have one, or I needed to have one or whatever. But with the previous birth, that didn't ever arise. Like it all just kind of happened. Without that, it just was so quick and, you know, fine. So this time around when they offered it, I'd said ideally I didn't want them, because I know that once you have a vaginal examination, there's kind of slightly higher risks of infections developing and things, and then with that obviously less chance of getting kind of the non-medically type birth that I was hoping for. She offered it, and at that point I was actually quite open to have one, because I'd been in labour for quite a while at this point, already felt like such a different experience to my first birth, and I was like, I have no idea where I'm at, like let's find out. But the thing that stopped me from saying yes for a little while was that she'd said, we can examine you. And I was umming and ahhing, and they were like, we'll go out of the room, let you and your husband discuss and decide, and we'll come back and you can let us know. And as soon as I walked out of the room, Ollie was like, I know exactly why you don't want to commit to having one, like why you're unsure. And I was like, oh yeah. And he was like, because you don't know who's going to be doing it, do you? And I was like, yeah, exactly that. Like, as much as this midwife was so lovely, and I really don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but I just would have felt so much more comfortable with the female midwife doing the examination than the male midwife. But I felt like I couldn't say that. Like I couldn't say, I'll have one, but only if you do it, because I didn't want to be disrespectful to him, to his profession, to his like skill. Like he's been doing it for years. Like he'd been doing it for way longer than the female midwife. Like, so I don't know why in my head it was a thing, but it was like, I just felt uncomfortable with that idea. So Ollie and I were talking about it, and Ollie's like, I'll just go and say like, you'll have one, but please can it be the female midwife that does it? And I just couldn't have him say that. Like, I was like, I cannot, like, that is so disrespectful to the male, which in retrospect, speaking to my friends and stuff, like, literally every friend I've spoken to about this has said I would have said that. Like, but I think when you're in that situation, would you actually say that to the male? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just too much of a people pleaser. So in the end, I was like, look, I want to have one. Whoever it is that does it, let's just see what happens. Let's just say we want one and hope it's the female that does it. And they came in, and yeah, she was the one that said she would do it. But what she did say is, she was like, I've got really small hands, so this may or may not work. Sometimes I struggle to find the cervix, so if I'm struggling, we'll get the male midwife to come and do it because he's got bigger hands. So that was like, okay. Luckily she did find it. I had to like put my hands in fists, like under my bum, which I've had to do for a smear test before as well. So yeah, she found it, and she said I was only 3 centimeters dilated. So I was gutted because I'd been in labor for, I don't even know how many hours. I'll put on the screen how many hours, but I'd been in labor for quite a long time at this point. So if you can hear baby noises, he's defo got some wind going on over there. Yeah, I felt really deflated, and I did have a little cry at this point because I just felt so fed up. I felt like the home birth had just slipped away from me. At first I was so positive because it happened like on a nursery day, on a weekday, when we had like childcare for after nursery available, and it felt like it was going well, but then bit by bit it just felt like it was crumbling, and yeah, I just felt really deflated. So yeah, at this point they were like, we can stay until the end of our shift, but we actually think we're slowing down your labour by us being here. We think you would progress a lot more quickly if it was just you and your husband chilling out. So that's what happened. They went home, and we chilled out as much as we could. There were roadworks going on our road, which I don't think I've mentioned yet. Little bubba. Yeah, our road was actually shut from that day. That morning that I went into labour, the workmen turned up, they shut up our road, and they started digging trenches in our road because they were laying some cables. So they had the little like the machines, you know, really noisy. I think I might have even filmed it. So yeah, there was that going on, and I was having contractions, and once they left they did pick up to be more intense again. They weren't necessarily coming any quicker, but they were more intense, like pain wise, more uncomfortable. It gets about 5 o'clock, and that's when we'd arranged for our lovely friend to pick Buzz up from nursery, but we had packed him an overnight bag, which we still had. So because our road was shut, she couldn't just drive to our house to get it, so Ollie walked down to the end of our road to meet her, handed over the bag, and then she went and got Buzz from nursery, and he went for his little sleepover. And I think whilst Ollie was doing that, I think I picked up the camera to film again, so I'll insert those clips here. Okay, so much later now. As you can see, I've had a few little tears. So what is the time? I think it's about 5:10 in the afternoon. So baby is not here yet. Sorry if you can hear the telly in the background. I cannot be looking for the remote right now, and I'm filming on my phone, so sorry if I'm looking in the wrong place, whatever. But it's been a long old day. Obviously I've been awake since 3 AM, contracting since about 6ish, I think. The home birth team came out, but they were on a short shift or something like that, which I didn't know was going to be an option. Not an option, but I was told that as long as, you know, between the hours of 8 AM to 8 PM, there was going to be midwives available for home birth team. These guys clocked off at 4, and there was no one to replace them. Before they got here, the app was saying I was in established labour. They were coming really quickly and like regularly and whatever. And then as they were here, yeah, they were just slower, like still regularly, but instead of like 3 in 10 minutes, it was more like 2 every 10 minutes or something like that. At about 1:30, I want to say, I agreed to an examination because I was aware of the clock ticking, of them having to leave, and I was only 3 centimetres, which then, like, I was just gutted, because I'd been contracting all day, and like my first birth was so quick. Obviously I'm saying this right now, like, there's no end in sight, because obviously I know things are happening, but I feel like when I look back in retrospect, unless this is going on for days and days and days, which I hope it isn't, but it might still seem like a really quick birth story, but right now it's like you just don't know when we're gonna meet baby, you know. I miss my big baby so much. He's been at nursery today. The fact that I'm even being able to talk to you for this long, I was having surgeries a lot more regularly, but Ollie's just popped out. So I think I'm like crossing my legs a bit because I don't want to go through him too much without him. But yeah, so Buzz was due to be at nursery today anyway. He normally starts at 8, but we got him there for the early drop off at like 7:15. And then we normally get him at 1, but he stayed there and he actually napped there, which I didn't think he would go down for a nap because he's never done like controlled napping like that. So I didn't think it would happen, but he did. And yeah, he's still there, having his dinner there. Then my lovely friend Kay, that's who Ollie's just gone to meet now. She's come to pick up a bag. He's going to stay at hers overnight, which is so lovely of her. Sorry. Yeah, he stayed away from us for 1 night, I think, ever. And that was over a year ago, so he won't in any way remember it. So I know Kay is lovely and her little boy. I know Buzz will have the best time, but I can't help but feel guilty and miss him so much. And I can't think about it too much because that's where most of the crying is coming from, because I just... Oh, sorry, another contraction. Basically, I miss my big boy. Can't wait to see him. I feel very, very guilty that he's being shipped off somewhere, but there's no other choice. In terms of a home birth, obviously that isn't happening right now unless it suddenly happens really quick and the paramedics have to come. Like if we don't leave in time, you know, like if we don't get enough warning to get to the hospital's about half an hour away. I'm so tired. I want a nap. Try to have a little nap, but it's quite tricky when you're having contractions I think it was like every 5 minutes at that point. And I've just tried to lay down again and it was just so uncomfortable. So yeah, who knows what we're gonna do, but you alright?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So once Ollie got back from dropping the bag off, Kay had actually given us a little bag of goodies. She'd got us some ready meals, some really posh ready meals, and some snacks and stuff, which was really so lovely of her, like so sweet. And so yeah, Ollie went and popped on one of the ready meals and we sat and ate that in bed, and it felt weird to just be me and him again, like after the kind of chaos of the day, having the midwives in the house, and like, I don't know, it actually felt like I'd started to relax again at this point, because I knew Buzz had got through the nursery day, he was with Kay, he was with his little mate, and yeah, I felt like we could just relax, even though I was still having contractions every 4 to 5 minutes. So we ate, and then we were like, right, we are both absolutely shattered, and who knows how much longer this is going to go on for. Let's try and sleep. So yeah, Ollie laid down, was able to sleep, bless him, and I was able to doze, but obviously for only a couple of minutes before I was woken up again by a contraction. Sometimes I was having to like run over to the windowsill and like lean on that, because that was where I was finding it the most comfortable to have the contractions. And then once I'd had the contraction, I'd go and lay back down in bed. I wasn't really able to lay down all that well. I was like I had my pillows propped up quite a lot, and I was like pretty much sat up. And then sometimes I'd like go onto my knees and like lean on the back of the headboard for a contraction, and then like sit back down and try and sleep again. And I don't really know how long that went on for, but We tried to have a sleep for a little while anyway. Ollie definitely got like a little bit in, but it was very broken. So yeah, did that. Had like the telly on, some random show, but couldn't really focus. And yeah, this kind of carried on for a good few hours. Sometimes we'd be upstairs, sometimes we'd be downstairs. Like I just wanted to move around. Like I was getting bored of the same scenery. I was getting fed up. Yeah, so that was happening. I tried getting back in the pool for a bit once the contractions felt like quite uncomfortable again. Like Ollie had been keeping it at a good temperature all day, because you do have to keep it like nice and hot. So he'd been keeping on top of that even whilst I wasn't in there, which was really nice of him. The contractions, yeah, were picking up. They were getting quicker together again and more intense. I was like really needing to rely on Ollie to get through them as the evening went on. I was like wanting us to stand up, and I'd like put my arms around the back of his neck and was like swaying like whilst holding him, and like, or holding hands really tight or whatever, just that physical touch. And like sometimes he would like squeeze my shoulders really tight, like counter pressure and all of that stuff. About 11 o'clock, Ollie rang the hospital to let them know that it was saying I was in established labour at this point, and that we were gonna start to come in. And the midwives, when they were here, had said to call, when we call the hospital line, to say that we'd been planning for home birth and that we're hoping to use the sanctuary, which is like their birthing centre that's got the birth pools in and stuff like that. So they said to like say all of that, and then hopefully they would kind of facilitate that similar experience as much as possible for us. And they said to him that unfortunately the sanctuary was full, and so I would have to go on the labour ward, which really was just like the cherry on top of like everything kind of not going to plan. I was like, of course there's no room in the sanctuary. But it was what it was. Like at this point, baby was coming, so yeah, just had to get on with it. We started to like get our bits together, but honestly I don't know where this time went, because this was at 11, and we didn't end up leaving the house until I don't even know what time. I think 3:30. I think because at this point the contractions were coming so frequently that it just took ages. I'd obviously had our bags packed already, but it was just really hard to like get going because there was just so many contractions. I don't know where this time went. Like it went like that at the time. Like I have no idea how it got to be so late, but I'm looking at the like call log here that Ollie sent me. I called them at 2:45 because at 2:30 I went for a wee, just because I was like, oh, I'll quickly go for a wee before we leave. I went for a wee, and there was some blood in the toilet, which I'd not had any like blood, like I know some people have the show and stuff like a while before going into labour or whatever. I didn't have that, so to see blood there shocked me a little bit. So I was like, just call the line and just let them know that has happened. They were like, it sounds like it's the show, it sounds completely normal, just carry on, get in here and we'll see you soon, kind of thing. So that happened. Yeah, I had to get changed and stuff because I'd like been in the pool, so I'd be like, was wet and like all of that. So anyway, so about 3:30 we left here, and it's about a half an hour drive to hospital, even in the early hours. We randomly saw 2 hedgehogs that night. One of them Ollie hit because it ran across the road, but it ran off, and I hope it was okay. It seemed to run off okay, but it just ran out in front of us, and yeah, that was like weird. So anyway, don't know why I'm telling you that. I thought when I got in the car the contractions would stop, because so many of my friends who I've spoken to said like as soon as you get out in that fresh air, have a change of scenery, get in the car, quite often contractions halt. So I was expecting that to happen. They absolutely didn't. It felt like they just kept getting more and more intense. I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and I tried to just sit on my bum like normally, but I could not sit on my bum. So in the end I was like on my knees, like holding onto the back of the headrest, yeah, through the contractions. And I know that is obviously super unsafe, but I could not sit on my bum. Like the pressure was so intense down there. So that was how I spent the journey to hospital. And I remember at one point the pressure suddenly just like kicking up a notch, and just thinking I'm about to give birth. Like, and I remember opening my eyes like just a bit because I'd kept them shut whilst I was like having contractions and stuff. to like stay focused, and I opened my eye and I was like, we were on a dual carriageway, and I was like, there's literally nowhere for Ollie to pull over here, like I can't give birth here, like, and I just remember thinking like, what is this, like what is happening? So anyway, we got to the hospital at about probably 5 to 4 or something like that. We parked in our normal car park that we'd normally always park in, which is like weird because it's the car park they say to park in for the maternity ward. However, once you then get into hospital, it's like really quite a long walk internally inside the hospital to get to that side. It seems like there should be a car park like nearer there, but there isn't, so, or at least that we know of. So we parked where we knew, got all of our bags out, took the walk to hospital, which took a while because obviously contractions. We got into the little like foyer bit of that entrance and saw there were wheelchairs there, and we were like, perfect. He was like, sit in a wheelchair, Shan, put the bag on my lap and I'll wheel you in, we can go that way. Like, because I was thinking like this walk to the maternity area is like quite long. So we wheeled up to the automatic doors and they didn't open, and we were like, huh? And then I was like, Ollie, all the lights are off in there, like it's shut, like this bit of the hospital looks shut. And then we looked and we saw a sign saying, yeah, the doors are shut from like whatever, like overnight, this entrance is closed. So Ollie rang up the maternity line and was like, how do we get in, what do we do? And they were like, oh, normally would happen would be that people would park at the main entrance, like in the ambulance parking right outside, drop the woman off, and then the partner would go and park the car and like come and meet her. But obviously we'd already parked in the other car park and whatever, so we were like, right, okay. So she said that you can walk around the hospital on the outside to come to the main entrance. So we were like, right, we'll do that. At this point it started raining. I'm in my pajamas, I'm wearing Ollie's Crocs, I'm having contractions every 3 minutes. And so, yeah, it was a long walk around the outside of the hospital. Let me tell you, there was like security guards I was walking past. Like literally I remember having a contraction. I was leant up against this random windowsill on the hospital outside, getting wet in the rain. And there was a security guard like a few steps away from me, like at another like door that we couldn't go in. But he was just stood there, and I was having a contraction. I just remember thinking like, I don't care at this point. This is what's happening. So yeah, eventually we got around to an entrance that we could go in, and it happened to be the urgent care entrance. And Ollie was like, do you want to keep going like around to the main entrance, or should we go in here? And it was like, well, it's raining, like I'm sure it's all linked up, so we'll come through here. And urgent care was packed, like there were people standing up, like all the seats were full. This was like the middle of the night, and I'm walking through in Ollie's Crocs, bright green Crocs, my pajamas, suitcase, having contractions, all of that. It's the look, like I cannot imagine what I look like walking in there. And yeah, I had a contraction or whatever, and then like a nurse or whoever was working kind of saw us there, and she came over and she was like, oh, is it urgent care you need? And we were like, no, it's the labour area. So she told us where to go to get there. So we got there, and again, contractions the whole way. Like it just takes ages to get anywhere when you're having contractions so frequently. And I was hardly walking quickly in between as well, because obviously like the pressure I was feeling of like the weight of the baby like on my back, and like just, you know, if you've been through it, I'm sure you know what I'm saying. But yeah, so we got to the maternity ward, and you literally go through the doors, and yeah, there's like labour ward to the right, and then to the left it says sanctuary, and there's like the reception straight ahead, I think. And yeah, the reception lady was there, and Ollie said, oh, I think I spoke to you on the phone, I've got Shannan, she's in labour, like here we are kind of thing. And as she was like saying hi, a midwife came from the left and was like, is it Shannan? And I was like, yeah. She was like, for the sanctuary. I was like, you've got room in the sanctuary? She was like, yeah, we've got your room all sorted. And honestly, I looked at Ollie, I was like, I could cry now at like the relief that I had that they had room in the like birthing suite, like the birthing centre, as opposed to me having to go into the labour ward. And I know labour wards, like the majority of people use labour wards, and if it happened, it would have happened. But in my head, I'd so like, just, that was just the last thing I wanted. So I felt like Mary and Joseph that midwife had room in her in for us, you know. Like, I felt so grateful. I could have just hugged her. I was like so overjoyed. And yeah, we went in there, we were chatting about like what's been going on and stuff, and she was like, okay, since you've been in latent labor for, I think she said over 13 hours or something like that, I can actually break your waters for you. Would you like that? Because the midwife who'd examined me at like 2 o'clock that day said, I think your waters are going to go any moment because they are bulging, and they hadn't gone yet. So I was like, okay. So I got on the bed. I was really nervous because I had no idea like what waters going felt like. With my birth before, they'd gone whilst I was in the pool, and I had no knowledge of it happening whatsoever. And also I had no idea what it'd feel like to have your waters broken. Like, I found the examination quite uncomfortable earlier on that day, so I was like a little bit nervous. But I was on the bed, Ollie was holding my hand, and yeah, it was odd. Like, once I got through the discomfort of her like getting there, it literally felt like I could feel her like feeling her way up to the area she needed to be in. But once she'd done that, it felt like she just like went like that, like a little twist or a little scratch or like something. Like, I didn't really fit, but I just felt like, I don't know, a weird feeling. And then before I knew it, like, there was just so much water and it was just warm, and like I got the giggles at this point, and like everyone was like, why is she laughing? Because I was laughing, like the midwives were really laughing, and Ollie was really laughing, and like I think I just felt like such a relief that this was happening. And like, it was just weird, the water's going, and anyway, it was just a funny situation. It probably wasn't, but to me it was at the time. So that like lifted the mood, and yeah, she broke my waters. I think she broke them at 4:30 in the morning. And then so yeah, I think she broke them at 4:30, around thereabouts anyway. And they started to fill up the pool. I wasn't expecting, like when they broke my waters, I then stood up and there was quite a bit of blood, which they said was completely normal, but I just wasn't expecting it. It was like running down my legs and stuff a bit. And yeah, so there was that. And they said like, do you want to put like knickers on and put a pad in or like whatever? And I was like, well, I think I'll get in the pool if that's okay. Like, I'm already in this situation now. So yeah, I just waited until the pool was ready, and I got in the pool. It filled up really, really quickly. And then once the pool was full, the midwives were like, right, we're gonna go on our break, gonna have a quick bite to eat, don't have the baby while we're gone, lol. Then they popped in like a relief midwife who was really nice as well. Ollie was just sat like on a chair next to the birthing pool, and he put on like my Mellow Magic playlist again. And yeah, the contractions were really intense, and I wasn't really talking to him much in between because they were coming quite quickly. I was just listening to my app. And then all of a sudden I just had the poo feeling, where I just remember saying, I'm gonna do a massive poo. And I remember looking over at the midwife who was sat there reading from my birth preferences, like she was just keeping to herself, which was lovely because I felt like that is kind of what I prefer in that situation. Again, I know everyone's different, but I remember saying that and like looking over to her, like thinking, like I've said the key words, like I think this baby's coming, like I've really felt like I'd been here before, like I knew exactly this feeling. And she didn't like react, and I was thinking, okay, maybe it's too soon, like maybe she's thinking there's no way that's happening, like maybe I'm being dramatic. So I tried to like kind of get through it a little bit, but no, then I just really started making a different kind of noise. I think I'd kind of hit transition at that point, and baby was coming. And yeah, with that a few like minute or so later, the midwives came running back in, and they were like, we recognise that noise. They could obviously hear me in the room next door, because I'd been so quiet. They were like, you were just breathing through, like we had no, like you were so calm and relaxed the whole time. And then when that noise started happening, we were like, something's changed. So they came running in, and yeah, I had this massive urge to push. So I pushed, and baby's head, I felt him crowning, I felt the ring of fire, and yeah, he was just there, and I was saying to her, like, because they didn't have a mirror or anything, so they hadn't like looked yet, and I was like, is the baby's head there? Like I feel like the baby's head is there. Is he there? Is he there? She's like, we're just waiting for the mirror. And I was like, can you just like, is he there? Like, or am I just imagining that my vagina is feeling like this right now? And then, so yeah, she was able to look, and she said that this much of his head was out, like the top half of his head, she could just see his eyes. And she was like, I need you to push his whole head out, like I need you to push. And I was waiting for a contraction to come to do the next push, but it wasn't coming. And she kept just saying, you need to push, I'm really not happy not seeing his chin, you need to get his chin out for me. She kept saying it, and like the more she was saying it, the more like panicky she was sounding. And she was brilliant, like I'm not saying any, like, it's just the situation. Last time I didn't have to push in that way. My body pushed Buzz out for me, and it's weird because at the time I didn't even know that that could have been a thing. It's only since having him that I've heard that it's got a name and like it's a real thing, and I think it's called, I've just had a look, fetal ejection reflex. Also known as the Ferguson reflex, is when the body expels a baby involuntary, that is without forced pushing. And that's exactly what happened last time. Like my body, my muscles in my body pushed Buzz out last time. So this time being told to push was very, very different, and it was something that I hadn't wanted. But the midwife sounded so panicked, saying that his head was only half out for too long kind of thing, and so I had to get his head out. So she was just telling me to push, and at this point I remember thinking, I'm gonna tear because my body isn't contracting at the minute, like it would be going against what my body is doing to try and push this baby right now. But she sounded so panicked that I was like, right, I'm just gonna have to do it. So I pushed, got his head out, and then yeah, she was like, right, okay, his whole head's out, it's all good. And then yeah, his head was born, and not long after his body was born. I really don't know, like last time it was literally with one contraction my body pushed his head out, and with the other contraction his body came out. They were very close together, like it was 1 minute apart, whereas this time I don't know what minute, like I don't know how far apart they were, but it really wasn't a long time. Like I was literally still only pushing for a very short amount of time, and it was really just like a couple of pushes from start to finish. And so yeah, this time I knew, like they'd said, right, when he comes out, reach down, grab him, pull him up to your chest. And they said that last time with Buzz, but last time I was in so much shock because how my body had just pushed him out, and I was like, what has just happened? But I panicked, and I didn't pick him up, which was fine because the midwives obviously know that probably happens sometimes. So she like grabbed him and put him on my chest straight away last time. But this time I was like, I want to do that, like I want to try and do that. So as soon as his body came out, they were like, right, pick him up, and I did. And Ollie actually filmed that, and I'm gonna pop it on here. Maybe it's a little bit TMI, but you can't see anything, like you can see some blood in the water. I'll try and put a timestamp on the video if you don't want to see that. But yeah, I feel like it's quite like a special moment and pretty incredible, like that Ollie filmed that.
5, 6, in, 2, 3. Out, 2, 3, 4, 6, in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, out, 2, out, 2, 3.
Yeah, there we are. Oh, you're beautiful.
So, bit of a whirlwind to catch you up on, but I just wanted to document a little baby boy in the, oh I'm shaking, in the sanctuary. This is what it looks like. yeah, I look a bit panicked in the video because he didn't cry straight away, and I'm a real overthinker and a nervous person with that kind of stuff. So as soon as I picked him up and he like looked quite floppy, if you can see, like I picked him up in such a weird way, like when I look back I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't support him at all, but obviously like he's slippery and it's a lot going on, so please don't judge how I picked him up out of the water. But yeah, so I was like patting his back and I was like, oh, like come on, like baby, cry, whatever. And then he did, and it was a relief and it was fine. But the next kind of little panic came when the midwife, who had previously been the one to tell me to push, she was like the lead midwife in the situation, and she was amazing, like so lovely, like I really am really grateful to her. But she got a bit panicked at this stage because she was like, she just said, we need to get you out of the pool, we need to cut the cord, we need to get you out. And like before I'd said I wanted like delayed cord clamping and all of that, but she wanted to cut the cord so she could get baby over to Ollie, and so she could get me out of the pool, because she was really not happy with how much blood she was seeing in the water. And again, it's so weird because last time with Buzz, like the water was pretty much clear. Like I did not really bleed in that water at all. Like when I look at the video, it's like there was just nothing really in there whatsoever. Whereas this time, like the water did just go red quite quickly. And I don't know now, like in retrospect, was that because like I pushed this time? Like was my body like not quite ready yet? Or like, I don't know what it was. But anyway, there was a bit too much water for her, like a bit too much blood in the water for her liking, and she was worried I was like hemorrhaging or whatever. So she, yeah, baby went over to Ollie, I think, and I got out of the pool and got on the bed, and she gave me the injection pretty quickly to get the placenta out. Got the placenta out, and she was like, right, no, bleeding's looking okay. Like I just don't like it when apparently if you can't see the bottom of the pool anymore, that's when it's like an indication that there's like too much blood. So yeah, it was all fine in the end, but it was a little kind of scare at the time. I think Ollie had like was filming me holding the baby, and then at that point the midwife was like saying, right, I'm really not happy, she's bleeding too much, blah blah blah. And so I think that's when Ollie cut the camera off because yeah, like it was just a bit of a worrying situation, but it was all absolutely fine. So yeah, got the placenta out and that was fine. Like it's not the most comfortable thing, but you know, it is. They offered me gas and air for it actually, which I hadn't had any gas and air in the labour. Like I hadn't had any pain relief in like the actual birth or anything, just the birthing pool. So it's funny that they offered gas and air for the placenta, but anyway, I was like, nah, it's fine, like just do it. So they I find it so odd, like I don't know if every situation's different, because I feel like it was slightly different this time, but yeah, they like kind of pull it out a bit using the cord, but they said they were worried about if the placenta had like broken up or something. Maybe that was the reason why there had been a bit more blood. So she was like making sure that placenta came out as like a whole thing, and that there wasn't any like retained placenta, I think it's called. But yeah, she's like pushing my stomach from the outside as well, like pushing it down from the outside. Or so weird. But anyway, it came out. I said I didn't want to see it and stuff, so they took it away. And then I got cuddles, and we had some nice skin on skin cuddles, and that was that. That was it done. Oh no, I'm ignoring one part. Obviously they then have to examine you to look for any tears and anything like that. So yeah, as she said, like, right, I'm going to examine you now. Let me know if it's like too uncomfortable or whatever. And I was like, oh, I remember this bit from last time. I remember being shocked when I got a finger up my bum last time because no one had told me that that's a thing, and she like laughed. But this time she didn't check up my bum, so I don't know if that was like a random thing last time. Although again, I've spoken to some friends since then and they've said that they had a check from their bum hole side as well, so who knows. But anyway, this side she didn't check my bum hole, she just checked from my vagina to make sure there was no tears, and I'm really lucky there was no tears or anything. A couple of like very light grazes internally, I think, very similar to last time. And yeah, so then got my tea and toast that everyone bangs on about. I will say my toast was burnt, it was black on the underneath, so it wasn't as epic as everyone had told me it was because it was burnt, but you know, a nice cup of tea anyway. And yeah, then they popped him on the scales, weighed him. As they were about to weigh him, they were like, do you want to guess, looking at him, how much he weighs? And I could tell he was bigger than Buzz was. And Ollie was like, I don't know, like 6.5 pounds. I was like, 6.5 pounds, like Buzz, like that's less than Buzz, right? And he was like, oh no, he does look really little. And I was like, no way. I was like, I reckon he's like 8 pounds. What I was not expecting was for them to say that he was 9 pounds 8 ounces. I was not expecting him to be basically 2 pounds heavier than Buzz was. So anyway, that was crazy. But yeah, it was a really nice experience all in all. Like the labour itself was a lot longer. So we got to hospital. I think, yeah, like I said, I think my waters were broken at 4:30 and he came just over an hour later. So it was very quick from having my waters broken to him coming. And the midwife actually said that when she broke my waters, she was like, I would have said you were only 3 centimetres at that point, but obviously breaking the waters just sped everything on. So yeah, it's crazy. Another very quick like birth in terms of like, you know, active labour. He actually came out with like loads of little like light blood bruises under his skin on his forehead, and they said that would have been where like the last bit happened really quickly. Bless him. So yeah, it was amazing, really. Like I'm really lucky to say that I had 2 very positive birth experiences. My first went completely to plan. My second didn't go to plan, but was still pretty amazing, and I'm very lucky. I really truly didn't find it too painful. I found the contractions quite painful near the end, but with breathing it really helped. The ring of fire, I didn't find it that bad, because I just find it really satisfying. Like you're pushing and he's like about to be born and it's like so soon and so exciting. And yeah, it's obviously not comfortable at all. It is sore, but I just think in my head this time I knew how quickly it passed last time, and like it's uncomfortable for that time, but then once baby's out, obviously you're sore down there and things, but I don't know, I find birth really incredible and really magical, and maybe I'm already looking back on it in rose-tinted glasses. Maybe if I filmed this the day after the event I would be speaking differently, but I really don't think so. Like I feel really lucky and grateful to have had the experiences I've had. But yeah, with the additional bleeding, I did have to stay in hospital for until midday. So for 6 hours, I think they said I had to stay there to have some blood tests done 6 hours after the birth. So yeah, otherwise we'd have been able to go home more quickly than we did. But yeah, we still only were there 6 hours after he was born, and then we came home and my friend brought Buzz back and we spent the time together as a family, and that was the start of our new crazy life together as a 4. So yeah, I don't know if I've covered questions and things. I did have a Q&A on my Instagram, but I've not looked at them for this video because I feel like this video is actually long enough as it is. But I will do a separate Q&A about the birth and labour and anything like that if you would like me to. So do ask any questions below. Like I don't know how much, like I don't know if I've left anything out in this video, do you know what I mean? It's hard when you're just chatting for so long to know if you've covered everything. So if there is anything I forgot to say, or if I've half started a story and then forgotten or whatever, then do let me know in the comments below, ask away, and I will do a separate Q&A. Thank you so much for watching. Otis truly is gorgeous. He is such a lovely little boy. He's actually just waking up now, so I'm gonna finish filming this, go and get him a milk and then show you him. But yeah, if you are watching this because you are pregnant and you are due soon, then I wish you all the best for your birth. I hope it goes as magically as possible, and just try to go with the flow. Like things do change. You can have your birth plan or birth preferences or whatever, but things do change. Try not to panic, because panic's the last thing you want in that situation. Just trust yourself. Your body was made to do this. You can do it. And yeah, I'd love to hear your stories as well. So thank you so much for watching, and just for all of your super kind messages over on Instagram and everything else, and for your patience. I know I've been missing on here for a while, but I will try and come back soon. Say hi. Hi everyone. Are you a good boy? You see yourself? Who is it? Is it Otis? Is it my Otis? Oh, I love him so much. Yeah, I'm gonna go so I can carry on feeding this little man. But he truly is amazing, and Buzz has been the best big brother. It was a rocky start, not to him being a big brother. He's always been so gentle and sweet with Otis, but Buzz himself was like having some emotional times, I think. But I'll talk about that in the Q&A. But yeah, from us, see you soon. You blow a kiss.